welcome back to Bridal Sewing Techniques, and today we're going to go over how to raise the waist of a dress. Now, I know, it sounds all very confusing. Raise the waist, drop the waist. Sounds like they should be completely opposite things, but yet we hear them spoken about on the same project sometimes. So specifically, let's talk about this project. This dress was originally made for that glittery band to be just a little below her natural waist. But you can see from the pinch that her natural waist is a good 2.5, 3 inches above that band. So what we need to do is we need to raise the waist of the dress. That is, make the narrowest part of that bodice a little higher. So we're going to do that. So what we're going to have to do is tighten it up at the top, notch the waist where the waist occurs, and then even flare it out a little bit to accommodate the hips. Now you can see my finger placed here. I'm just going to kind of bounce it on the boning there to find where her natural waist is occurring. You can either mark that with pins or remember where it is, but that's where you're going to notch the waist. So again, you can see this. I'm going to take up the bodice, put that little notch there, and then flare that out for the hips. Again, I know this sounds confusing. That's because when the alteration is complete and she puts the dress back on, the style of the dress is going to be more like a drop waist gown. So that's where those two terminologies get kind of intermingled a little bit. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments down below. Okay, so this is what you're going to be looking for when a gown is, the torso of the gown is longer than the bride's torso. Okay, so let's just make this her body. Okay. Waist, bust line. So what you're going to find is when a dress is too long torsoed, the waist is, unless if the dress is way too big, the waist is still going to hit her pretty much here because it's going to hit where her hips start to go out and it's not going to be able to fall any further. Again, this is if the dress is not way too big. Okay, so it's going to hit here, and then you're going to find that the boning of the dress is going to stand up. And it's going to push the top of the dress way too high. Instead of sitting where it should sit, it's going to push it way too high. You're going to see it up in her armpits. You're also going to see if this is a lace gown, like let's say it has a lace halter, you're going to see a lot of wrinkles this way, horizontal wrinkles, and possibly even standing up on the neck. If there's not a lot of boning and it can't stand on its own, maybe it will hit kind of closer to where the bodice should hit, but you're going to get a lot of horizontal wrinkling. Okay, so the horizontal wrinkling is going to be a clue that the torso is too long, as is it coming up too high under her armpits. So what we're going to have to do is take the waist of the gown and move it up. So if it's when you pinch, like right here, I'll show you a picture. When you pinch and you feel, here's the waist of the gown, and pull it down. Sometimes you have to unzip the gown. Pull it down to where the apex of the bust of the dress is in line with the apex of her bust. When you pull it down to there, it might be more like this. And you can see, oh, the torso is, 2.5 inches too long. Because here's the waist of the dress and here's her waist. So what we're going to have to do is take the gown and make this the new waistline. So we're going to have to let this part out here and pinch a new notch here. So if it's a very long bodice and they don't actually want to pay to shorten the bodice, they need to know that the bodice is no longer going to stop at the natural waist like it was originally intended. It's going to have a drop waist, which can actually be very flattering for a bride who has a shorter waist. So let's actually get to sewing. Okay, so here's the waist of the dress. The boning stops there, and then you can also see the curve in it. So we need to raise the waist up to here. And we may have to let this out a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and free this belt up, and then I'm going to get into the inside of the dress, and I'll show you what we'll do next. Alright, so I need to take it up about this much. Going down. The waist is going to be a little higher, and then it's going to come back out. And then we'll just sew this back together. I separated it just to make it easier to work with.